If you enjoy deep World War II aviation history, make sure to like this video and subscribe. More rare and forgotten fighter stories are coming. The Dewoitine D.520 was never meant to be a legend. When it first rose into the French sky in 1938, hardly anyone expected that this sleek new monoplane, still struggling through prototype issues and bureaucratic delays, would soon become the finest French fighter of the Second World War. Yet within just 2 years, as the storm of 1940 shook Europe to its core, the D.520 proved itself to be the shining exception in a collapsing air force, the one machine capable of standing toe-to-toe with the Luftwaffe's Bf-109. It emerged too late to change the course of the war, but not too late to etch its name into aviation history through the skill of its pilots, the promise of its design, and the remarkable journey it took across both Allied and Axis skies in the years to come. In the tense months before the German invasion of France, the Dewoitine D.520 embodied the hope that France's aviation industry could finally match its rivals. It had speed, it had firepower, and most importantly, it had potential, the kind that could have rewritten the narrative of the Battle of France had it been available in the numbers originally envisioned. This is the story of that fighter, fast, elegant, underappreciated, and forever tied to the tragic events of 1940. It is a story marked not only by technical achievement but by courage, political chaos, and the desperate fight to defend a nation in its final hours of freedom. The origins of the Dewoitine D.520 began with an urgent realization inside the French Air Ministry during the mid-1930s. The rapid rise of Nazi Germany and the emergence of powerful monoplane fighters like the Bf-109 served as a stark warning that France had fallen behind. Its air force relied heavily on outdated aircraft such as the Morane-Saulnier M.S.406, which, though modern-looking for its time, lacked the speed and power needed for the wars of the future. French designer Émile Dewoitine believed he could change that. Having already built a reputation for creating advanced metal aircraft, he proposed a fighter capable of exceeding 500 km per hour, with superior maneuverability and heavier armament than any existing French design. The Air Ministry hesitated at first, bound by entrenched bureaucratic traditions and slow procurement systems, but finally issued a specification for a new high-performance fighter. Dewoitine's answer became the D.520, a refined and forward-thinking machine featuring an all-metal monocoque fuselage, a Hispano-Suiza 12Y45 engine, and a powerful 20mm cannon mounted through the propeller hub. The combination of speed, aerodynamic finesse, and firepower finally placed France on the threshold of true parity with the Luftwaffe. Development, however, was plagued with delays. The Hispano-Suiza engine encountered reliability issues, production lines were slow to expand, and political debates inside the French aviation industry constantly interfered with progress. Test flights initially revealed problems with cooling, stability, and structural stress at high speeds. But by early 1939, the D.520 began to demonstrate its promise. It reached speeds of 530 km per hour, outperformed the M.S.406 in every category, and finally convinced the Air Ministry that it represented France's best hope for a modern fighter. Production orders soared, and by the start of 1940, the aircraft began entering squadron service. Yet it was already too late. France, slow to rearm and uncertain in strategic planning, entered the critical months before the German invasion with only a handful of D.520s ready for combat. It was a tragedy of timing. The best French fighter of the war arrived just weeks before the greatest crisis in the nation's history. The Dewoitine D.520's design reflected both elegance and practicality. The aircraft was slender and aerodynamic, built to minimize drag and maximize speed. Pilots loved the cockpit layout, which offered excellent visibility and a comfortable control setup uncommon in French fighters of the time. Its thick wings created a stable firing platform, improving gunnery accuracy, and its lightweight structure allowed impressive maneuverability. The heart of the aircraft, the Hispano-Suiza 12Y engine, produced 935 horsepower, enabling the D.520 to reach a maximum speed of about 535 km per hour, 332 miles per hour. This placed it roughly on par with, or slightly below, the Bf-109E in pure speed, but the Dewoitine had its own strengths. It offered exceptional low-speed handling, superior turning ability, and gentler stall characteristics that allowed pilots to pull tight maneuvers without losing control. In a dogfight, these qualities mattered immensely. Against the Bf-109, whose high-speed performance was unmatched, the D.520 could not outrun its opponent, but it could outturn it, especially at medium altitudes where wing loading became the deciding factor. Armament was another point in the D.520's favor. Its 20mm HS.404 cannon was powerful enough to shred bombers and fighters alike, and with its 500 rounds of machine gun ammunition in the wings, the aircraft offered a balanced and effective weapons package. The Bf-109E, depending on variant, often carried fewer cannon shells and relied more heavily on rifle-caliber machine guns. The Dewoitine's firepower proved devastating when aimed accurately. German pilots, in after-action reports, noted that the D.520's cannon hits caused extensive damage, often breaking engines, fuel lines, or wing spars in a single burst. Its protection, too, was considered good for the era, with armor plating behind the pilot and self-sealing fuel tanks, features that increased survivability against the Luftwaffe's relentless firepower. When the German invasion began on May 10, 1940, the Dewoitine D.520 finally got its chance to prove itself. Only about 75 aircraft were fully operational at the time, an appallingly low number considering France needed at least 5 times that amount to equip its frontline units. Yet wherever the D.520 appeared, it showed its worth. Pilots of groups de chasse 2/3, 3/3, 3/6, and others took their new fighters into combat against Bf-109Es, Bf-110s, and waves of German bombers. The results surprised even the Luftwaffe. German pilots reported that the D.520 was a formidable opponent, more maneuverable than expected and capable of holding its own in the chaotic dogfights over France. In several engagements, French squadrons flying the D.520 achieved kill ratios superior to those of units still operating the older M.S.406. The aircraft's speed allowed it to intercept bombers effectively, while its turning ability gave it a crucial advantage during close-in engagements with escort fighters, yet bravery and skill could not overcome numerical inferiority. The Luftwaffe maintained overwhelming air supremacy, coordinating its fighters, dive bombers, and reconnaissance aircraft in a way France was simply not prepared to counter. Even as D.520 units scored victories, they suffered losses from ground attacks, fuel shortages, and constant relocation under the pressure of the German advance. Pilots often flew multiple missions per day, sometimes with barely functional aircraft patched together by exhausted mechanics. Still, the Dewoitine fighter earned respect. It became the only French fighter of the 1940 campaign considered equal to German aircraft by both sides. In the final days of the Battle of France, the D.520 performed escort missions, defensive patrols, and ground attack sorties, continuing to fight even as the front crumbled. After the armistice, the story of the D.520 took an unexpected turn. Many surviving aircraft fell into the hands of Vichy France. These units continued to fly patrols in North Africa, fighting not Germans but the Royal Navy and Free French forces during tragic and politically charged engagements. In Syria in 1941, D.520s clashed with British and Australian pilots flying Hurricanes and Tomahawks. While outnumbered, the Dewoitine fighters again displayed their quality, achieving several kills despite the chaotic circumstances of the campaign. Some D.520s were later captured by the Germans and transferred to their allies, including Italy, Bulgaria, and Romania. These Axis-operated Dewoitines flew patrols, training missions, and occasional combat sorties against Soviet forces or Allied bombers. In each case, pilots appreciated the aircraft's handling and stability, even if it was no longer competitive against late-war fighters. One of the most interesting chapters in the D.520's post-armistice history occurred in the Free French forces. After Operation Torch and the liberation of North Africa, several D.520s were incorporated into the reformed French Air Force. They served as advanced trainers, transition aircraft, and patrol fighters before being gradually replaced by American-built P-39s, P-40s, and later Spitfires and Mustangs. By 1944, the Dewoitine, once a symbol of strategic hope, had become an aircraft of secondary relevance, though still widely respected by the pilots who flew it. In the post-war years, the last remaining D.520s found roles in training units, gunnery schools, and even as test platforms before being retired in the early 1950s. A few airframes survived into museum collections, allowing future generations to glimpse the elegant lines of the aircraft that almost changed the fate of France. The legacy of the Dewoitine D.520 is one marked by both achievement and tragedy. It was unquestionably the best French fighter of World War II, and one of the few Allied aircraft capable of competing with the Luftwaffe's frontline machines in 1940. Its design reflected a level of engineering sophistication that France had struggled to achieve during the interwar years. Yet its impact was limited not by its quality, but by timing, production delays, and strategic confusion. Had it entered service 6 months earlier, or in significantly larger numbers, the aerial battle over France might have unfolded very differently. But history does not reward potential, it rewards what proves decisive. The D.520 arrived too late to save its nation, but not too late to prove that French aviation had brilliance left in it. Today, the Dewoitine D.520 stands as a symbol of unrealized possibilities. It represents the courage of its pilots, the innovation of its designers, and the resilience of a nation facing overwhelming odds. Its wings carried not only bullets and fuel, but the hopes of a country fighting for survival. And though overshadowed by more famous fighters such as the Spitfire, Mustang, and Bf-109, the D.520 earns its place among the truly remarkable aircraft of the Second World War. If you enjoyed this deep dive documentary about the Dewoitine D.520, Don't forget to like this video and subscribe, more rare World War II fighter histories are on the way.